prefers German or English? English? Okay, the slides are in German. I hope that's not a problem. Not so that much content on it. Ready to go? Ready to go? Okay, my talk today is about the talking house. And yeah, it's almost my house. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Peter. I'm 36 years old, and surprising, I'm still married with 2 children, working for a big blue company. And as a short disclaimer, all this content in this talk is my opinion and is not representing the company's opinion. The talking house. Why I'm talking about the talking house. And to explain that, I need to go back in history. Maybe somebody knows this picture. I see some smiles in the audience. For those not knowing this, it's a car, or it was a car in the late 80s. And this car was able to do a lot of things. But the most impressive thing, and whenever there was a person facing this car, everybody was surprised that this car was talking. All the rest was uninteresting, so that this car could jump and all the rest, it really was uninteresting. But the very important thing here is, and this was one sentence, the car said very often, it was, Michael, my sensors are showing that whatever. So that shows us in these movies, the text output was used besides small talk to tell sensor states. And sensor states in a house, these are, for example, my bus systems and sensors I've built into my house. For example, KNX, it's in Europe, it's a widely distributed automation bus system for homes or bigger buildings. AN-Ocean is a wireless bus system, one wire for temperatures, for example. 6LoWPAN, I guess you heard a lot today about 6LoWPAN. LAN, local area network, is for sure a bus system. For example, internet radio, so meaning output devices, and the internet. Internet is a sensor for me because it's providing data to my system, to my house, like a weather forecast and other things. But later, I will tell you about that later. But sensors are not making a smart home. You need a bit more to have a smart home. And I would like to use the chance and talk about the evolution of smart homes in this example. For example, roller shutters. At the very beginning, electric roller shutters, we had a direct wiring, so really switch the roller shutter for up and down, and that's it. The next level would be that we have bus sensors and actors, but at the end, it's still the same. You're hitting a button and the roller shutter is going up and down, so it does not really make a difference here. The next level is home automation. So that means if you have time-based opening, closing roller shutters, or maybe sequences when you're closing the shutter that it turns on the light. In this example, time-based does not really make sense because we all know that the sun is not going up and down at the same time. So you always have to adjust the time for opening and closing the roller shutters. And let me paint a scenario here. You're sitting outside the house on the balcony. You're having a barbecue, for example, and suddenly your shutter's going down because it's time. You may imagine that you jump inside your house to stop the roller shutters from going down because you realize that you do not have a key with you. And this is the only chance to get into the house. So it's not really the best solution. Smart homes, that's the way to go. A smart home is proactive and it's combining different sensors. In this example, for example, my roller shutters for the balcony, they get the release 1 hour before the sun goes down. So then they are allowed to move the first time. Then the second sensor used to control my roller shutters is a lighting sensor on the roof. So that means when the light intensity is below a certain level, the roller shutters will move, will go down, with one exception. If the balcony door is open, this is the third sensor involved, if the balcony door is open, every roller shutter except the balcony door will move. And if it is open, it will turn on the lights on the balcony because most likely I'm sitting outside and having a beer or whatever. So it's doing a lot of things. Next thing is, it's not the automation itself. It's when I go inside and I close the balcony door, it will also close the roller shutter for these doors, and it will turn off the light outside. So this is then automation, and it's intelligent. It's a smart home. But why the hell do we need text output in a smart home? If everything is working okay, everything is automated, why do we need text output? And let's go back to the car. Now, I've been told that this is the most up-to-date car out there. It's a Mercedes-Benz S model with a lot of technique inside. But why doesn't this car have a text output? And the answer is quite simple, because you see it on the picture. When you drive a car, you have a very defined position and a very defined viewing direction. So let's imagine you're running out of fuel with this car. It's very likely that you get somewhere a red lamp, maybe a signal, an acoustic signal, and that's it. In comparison with a house, especially with my house, I'm having a pellets oven in the cellar, and I ran out of pellets. I have to tell you that I also have a thermostat in the living room with an LCD display, but my oven only shows the error message in the cellar, directly on the oven, and you never go there. So what happens? It's getting cold inside the house. No information at all. And that is the reason. Inside the house, a red lamp wouldn't be sufficient. You're moving inside the house. So text output or a speech for telling me that something is wrong would be the best choice for that. The technical background here is in my example, or in my house, I'm using an open source text-to-speech engine called MaryTTS. That's really used for transferring text, written text, to verbal output. I have different output devices. One is the sound card. The PC doing this is on the living room. It's an industry PC, bandless. It's completely silent with a sound card. And I have squeeze boxes. Squeeze boxes are internet radios. So that means, for example, information messages I'm only showing or telling through the sound card in the living room, triggered by a movement detection or presence detection in the living room. Like, for example, in my example, the pellets oven, if it is running out of pellets, it would tell me that in the living room when I enter the living room. Alarm messages like fire or whatever, they get distributed through all the squeeze boxes in the house, independent if I'm there or not. So every squeeze box or every internet radio would tell this message. I guess now you have a picture like this, so that I talk to my house, and my house gives me warm recommendations how to behave. But it's not really like this. In my house, I realized that I have some really useful output. For example, infrastructure, if there are problems or warnings, heating system, solar, water, or whatever. I had an example 2 years ago. I had a problem with my solar heating system. And to be honest, I would never realize that because it's, again, in the cellar, the temperature system, temperature display. And my system, my home automation system, a smart home, told me that the temperature on the solar heating system, on the panels, increased and increased and increased, but it never reached the buffer in the cellar. So there I realized on time that there is something wrong. At the end, it was one panel was damaged. Another infrastructure is open windows. When I leave my house, usually you run from room to room and check if all the windows are closed. Or for example, we have 2 floors at home. We have a toilet on the first floor, one on the ground floor, and you often forget to close the window on the first floor. So my house is telling me that there is a window open when I leave the house or when the outside temperature is below a certain level, so that it's not getting too cold. In some rooms I have temperature sensors, not in all, but in almost all rooms. So that means when we reach a certain level, high level or low level, I get a notification that there is maybe something wrong. Maybe I should close the roller shutters, especially in the first floor, the roller shutters of the roof windows. Or in my home, it's doing this automatically based on the lightning sensor on the roof. Security, movement alerts. I have alarms and alerts. That depends, because when I'm at home, it's only an alert and not an alarm. So usually when I'm at home and I'm sleeping, that is a state in the house, I'm not moving through the cellar. So therefore, I only get an alert. There is some movement detected in the cellar. It could happen that I go down and I want to raise an alarm for that. So I only get a warning for that. An alarm, a movement alarm, would be when I'm not at home. Well, then speech output would not really make sense, but it's telling a lot of stuff that you have to leave the house, and a lot of people are informed that you're recognized and so on. So it's more than for the thief, that he knows that he has been realized, recognized. Last but not least, for me, very useful, and that is the reason why I've started with all this speech output here, was the weather forecast. And this came, this came from my wife. We had an alarm clock, a radio alarm clock, and she always tried to listen to the weather forecast in the radio. And what the hell? We have a very intelligent home. Why don't we tell our house that the house should tell us the weather forecast? Now we have a rule for that. When you enter the living room in the morning the first time, it will tell you the weather forecast in the format I would like it, with, I don't know, top, maximum, minimum temperature, yeah, every information I would like. And of course, weather warnings. When there is a storm, rain, or whatever, you know, in Austria you could get short text messages, but to me that doesn't make sense. Because when I'm at home, my house could tell me that there is a weather warning, and when I'm not at home, the text message on my cell phone does not help, because I'm not at home. So I get it directly through my house. So in the slide before, we've seen the interaction with the house. Here I listed some possible interactions. For example, manual switches, movement detection, touch screens, cell phones, tablets, and so on. That is the way I prefer. But you could have a verbal interaction, like Amazon is coming up with their Elise, or what the hell, or Apple with their Siri. Android offers some possibilities for speech recognition. You could have some visual interaction, like MS Kinect. A friend of mine is trying to implement this. It's in his home, then he is with gestures opening the door. We'll see how that works. He's not finished. Very interesting, wearables. I could think that wearables is a big chance to interact with a home. Smart watches, like you have it always with you. So you could interact with your home. Or IOTGLOBAL, not sure if you know this. This is a wearable. It's a band for your arm. It recognizes your muscle contraction. So you could control whatever. It depends on which room you are. In my case, I only use the manual interaction with switches and touch screen. That all brings us to the data and security. You know, a lot of sensors are collecting a lot of data. In my opinion, all the data should stay inside the house. So that is the reason why I do not have speech recognition, and I do not have Google or Apple attached, because I don't want to have Google opening my roof windows when it's raining. It's blocked anyway, but you have to be careful which actions you publish to foreign systems. So very limited interaction with foreign systems. I've listed internet as a sensor before. That's right. In my case, it's only really a sensor. It's providing data. It's not really controlling my house. And one golden rule for me is privacy. I do not have a recognition which person is inside the room. I do not have cameras. I do not have face recognition or something like that. I only have movement detection to keep the privacy. Now the real question is, why do I need that? That all costs a bit, at least a bit money. Why do I need this? First of all, it's really, yeah, I'm a technician because I can. It's nice to have. But in reality, it's comfort. Sorry? Yeah, no, you're right. My wife told me, but that came later on. At the very beginning, It was just playing around with roller shutters and so on, and for me at least. And then when my wife realized the benefit, and for her it was mostly the comfort, then we increased the system, and it grows and grows and grows and so on. And now we have really a lot of automation in our home. You will see a little bit later on. And comfort was one of the aspects why we did this. It's the roller shutters. It's comfort, but it's security. When you have roller shutters open at night and no light in the house, especially in the winter, then you show the thief that you're not at home. So we have automated roller shutters going down. We have the lights going on. It's on the one hand, it's comfort. On the other hand, it is security. It's preventing the house. So really, we have comfort with everything automated, with sun protection. So it's not getting too warm in the house. When the sun comes out, it will close the roller shutters, at least on the roof window. Never. Never. We had no downtime. Well, we had one downtime 2 weeks ago because I turned off the electricity. I'm currently in a big recabling action because I ran out of space, and I'm moving everything into the cellar in a big wall there, all the actors. So that was the only time where the system was down. I built my home 2006, and since that time, it's working. And I tell you a secret, it's not controlled by a PC, most of the actions. It's my main bus is KNX, which is an industry known standard for big offices, hotels, and so on. So my main bus is KNX, and even I'm having a PC for the comfort. So this automation is controlled by a PC. But even if the PC breaks, and that happened once when there was a hard drive error, the house is still working. The switches are still working. The light is working. It's not automated. You lose some comfort, but the security is still there. The next point is the efficiency. That is the reason why the system was growing. This example here, this graph here, is showing my heating system. This was taken today, this morning, at approximately 7:30, I guess. What this is showing here is you have different lines. The blue line is the buffer temperature on the top, but the most important line is the yellow one. And at the very end, in the very right corner, you see that the orange or yellow line is going down. So that means somebody was showering today in the morning. What would do a stupid heating system? It would start to heat, even if you leave the house. And that does not make sense. Even you see the green line, this is a solar heating system. You see that it's getting warm. So that is the efficiency, to connect these systems, to prevent my pellets oven to start when I'm leaving the house, and to give the solar power, the solar heating system the chance to heat up. So that's the efficiency, and also sensor sharing. So I'm using each sensor for multiple scenarios. Like the windows, it is one for controlling the roller shutters. For the balcony door, if I open it, it opens the roller shutters and turns on the light outside if it is too dark. On the other hand, I'm using the same sensor for my alarm system. So it's a sensor sharing. But I think the most important reason for doing such a system is the security. These two pictures were taken 2 years ago. Thanks God, it was not my house, but it was a house in the neighborhood. It burned down completely because of a mosquito light. The mosquito light, a very small light, caused this fire. And yeah, you could have a fire warning system and whatever, but again, with a pellets oven in the cellar, when there is a fire warning system and it's making some noise in the cellar, nobody would hear it. So it makes sense to have connected sensors, and maybe it makes sense in this case, for example, when you turn off the electricity, if you realize that it is burning, it would stop. First of all, in this scenario, in this real world scenario, the mosquito light started to flame a little bit, smoke a little bit, and if you realize that with a sensor and you turn off the electricity, you would have a much, I think you could stop the fire in this case. And you all know we have a lot of electricity at home, iPhones, a lot of power supplies plugged in all the time. Also security is alarm system. As I told you before, the presence simulation, central off when you leave the house. Who was cooking the last days? Somebody forgot to turn off the oven? Nobody? Great. And last but not least, often forgotten, it's AAL. It's ambient assistant living. You may know this device here. It's for old people. They have this push button on their arm. So when there is a medical emergency, they hit the push button and then they get connected with the ambulance. Let me tell you a story. Grandmother of my wife had such a system. She lived in the 2nd district. She had an emergency. She pushed the button, got connected to the Vienna ambulance. Yeah, bad luck. The contract was with the Johanniter, so the ambulance was in front of the locked door. She was not able to get up. The ambulance stood in front of the locked door. I have such a similar system. That is an Ocean, so without battery. It's a push button. When you push it, first of all, it's not directly connected with the ambulance because there is no need. I'm too young for that. But it's doing a lot of things. First of all, it's turning on all the lights inside the house because it's not useful if you have an emergency that you're lying in the dark. By the way, I made this when my wife was pregnant. It's opening all the roller shutters to give the ambulance a chance to come in, even if the door is locked. And I'm still looking for a way to unlock and open the door, but currently I haven't found a way to do that, which looks okay, which is not too expensive. So in my opinion, that is the reason for a smart home and for connecting all the systems. Thank you very much. Yeah. No, the question was if I have a system to recognize person. No, I do not have it, and I don't want to have it because that's because of privacy. I don't want to know who's inside the room. No, I do not have that. In theory, you could do this with wearables, for example. Face recognition is not an option because I think you do not feel comfortable if you have a face recognition in the living room or cameras or something like that. That's really an active decision that we do not have this. It is possible, of course, and I've heard from people that they are experimenting and playing with these kind of cameras, but in my home, I don't want to have this. Yeah, the concern was that I still have the data, so I could nail it down to a person. But you're right. I could nail it down when there is somebody going into the children's rooms. It's most likely one of the children, but I cannot tell if he has a girlfriend with him. Okay, my son is 4, so. It's a man. But it's the only reason is we made a decision a man is easier to understand, especially German language. We had English language before, there was a woman. It was easier to understand, but my son is 4, my daughter is 10 months. They do not understand English language. We moved to German language, and the male voice was easier to understand. Do I have to answer this question? Yeah, please. Yep. Partly. I'm using an open source system called OpenHAB, Open Home Automation Bus. I've extended the system a little bit to fit into my house. I added some, they call it bindings, to connect to my devices. I changed a little bit, but the basics are open source, and then you have a description language for rules. You're really defining rules with a very simple language. It's a bit like Java, but it is not Java. It's a combination of Java and plain text. You're defining an item, whatever this could be. It could be a sensor, a switch. It's independent in which bus system this is. And then you could ask for the status. You could change the status. You can turn off and on and off lights. This how many rules and how long did it take? That is a difficult question, because you would expect that it is done now. It is not. It is growing. When you have such a system, and I told you that before, my wife comes almost every week with a new scenario. You know, you have children. Now my daughter is 10 months. Now the roller shutters in the first floor should behave different as they did before. So when she's sleeping, God behave, do not wake her up. So leave the roller shutters there closed. Do not turn on the lights. So all this automation changes almost every week when you have the possibility to do this with a few clicks. And you would be surprised when you have such a system. Your wife, and especially my wife, is not a technician. She comes up with a lot of ideas, really a lot of ideas. I have to do this. Yeah, she's not able. She would be able, but it's better I do it. My son is 4. Not yet. I'm afraid he will do. But as I told you before, all the relevant systems like light and fire alarm and things like that, these are not rules. They are directly connected in KNX. KNX is my main bus, so there is no chance that you disable a fire alarm. Which direction do I have to go? Placed it. Here I have KNX here and Ocean, one wire. One wire just for the temperature sensors because they are very cheap. 6LoWPAN, it's just for experimenting. LAN, for example, it's for the squeeze boxes. My internet radios, they are also controlled by the home automation system. So my alarm clock is controlled by the house. When I say I'm on vacation, it will not raise the alarm clock. And of course, the internet with, I have cameras outside the house. These are these are the systems I have. As you see, I'm preferring cabled systems. Ocean is just for, these emergency buttons, or for the window sensors. I have sensors. I have one here that realizes the state of the lever, of the window lever. So I had red sensors in the window before, but what happened? My wife closed the door, but she didn't lock it on the balcony. The sensor thought that it is closed, but it was not. So I added these sensors as well. The Ocean is not used for alarm, so it's a wireless system, and it's, in my case, it's not used for alarm. Yep. Sorry, could you repeat? Okay, the question was how long it could live without electricity. Yeah, that's an interesting question. When I have no electricity, it's exactly the same dark as in your house. So without electricity, nothing. It's down. No, not at all. Why is the house open or the door open if I do not have electricity? It will not open. The only problem I have, if I do not have electricity, I could not open the roller shutters. So if I lose my electricity when the roller shutters are down, I could not open. But it doesn't matter if you have a bus system, if you have an intelligent home, or if you have a direct wired switch to your electric roller shutters. Same as light. If you do not have electricity, it's dark. It is independent. If you control it through a bus system, through a PC or whatever, it is dark. I have some systems like the fire alarm system is with 12 volt, but not the light. It's just fire alarm if I have an electric damage and that's causing the fire. That is the only thing with a battery. So fire alarms is still valid, is still working. I guess we're out of time. Thank you very much. Have a good rest of the day.